Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our first annual Student Success Fair. Today, I have five alumni with me to talk about their journey here at CLU. So alumni, thank you so much for joining me. And guests, thank you for coming and listening to their experiences. So quickly, before we begin, if we can go around and introduce ourselves, share the program that you graduated from and the year that you graduated, that would be wonderful. So Janelle, if you want to take it away, that would be great.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Janelle, and I, studied organizational leadership in healthcare, and I graduated in February 2021.
Thank you. And Inva?
Hello, everyone. I'm Inva Lumi. I did a master's in organizational leadership in higher education, and I graduated in August of 2020.
And Paquina?
Everyone, my name is Paquita Gant, and I graduated with the organizational leadership program with the focus in human resources, and I finished in September of 2019.
And Jeremy?
Yes, my name is Jeremy Taylor. I graduated in organizational leadership and ethics in, I believe, February 2021.
And Erin?
Hi there, my name is Erin McConaughey, and I graduated with the Master's in Ethical Leadership, which is what we used to call it, in the first cohort, and I graduated in March of 2016.
Excellent. So Paquita and Jeremy, what made you decide to register here at CLU?
I'll go first. Yeah, so it's interesting because when I go back to my whole process, I had started looking, and for me, it was the people. I had expressed interest and asked for information, and then just based off of the conversations that I had with the registrar and actually the dean of students as well, I just really thought that Claremont was a good fit for me, especially when you're looking at the core values. It just resonated with me well, and I thought it would be a great experience for me.
Excellent. And Jeremy?
Yeah, for me, it was the low cost. To be honest, I couldn't beat that. But after looking into it, because things are somewhat too good to be true, I've met with different professors, and I went to an event such as this one. Good thing that it was more in person than it is now. But I met with a couple of the professors to kind of get insight onto what the program is about, what Claremont Lincoln is about, and learning, their core values and things of that nature. It really enticed me to really pursue my education here at Claremont Lincoln University. And not only that, being from Montclair, it was kind of next door as well too. So that was also great caveat to me going to Claremont Lincoln University. So yeah.
Absolutely. Excellent. Inva, what did you like most about your program?
Yes, well, the program had a lot of benefits for me. I actually lived in Claremont, so it was easy for me to, even though it was an online program, I just enjoyed the campus, just going there and so forth. The teachers were very approachable. The program itself was easy to navigate for me. At that time, when I attended, it was 18 months, and it turned into 15 months. And then, and now I know it's a little bit different, but I like how they're keeping it current all the time, right? Because I looked at different colleges and they did not have what I really wanted to study. So it was very broad. It wasn't very specific like Claremont had it. So I really like that. And the other thing that I really enjoyed was that they're hands-on. They want you to really make that change. And I found out in my capstone that I really had to work hard and really deliver, right? Yeah, I see we all agreeing to that. So I really enjoy that. Because it really helped me be exactly where I am today, which I can talk a little bit more later. So yeah, and I'll pass it on to Janelle.
For me, specifically, just being able to connect with people who are like-minded, and also being able to learn from other people from different industries and fields. It was very interesting, and I appreciated that because, you know, you learn so much more than what you're experiencing or what you're studying or what you're focused on. And I got to learn a piece from everybody because in the very beginning of the course or the semesters, you actually meet everybody from different focuses. So there's people in with ethics, you know, they're focused in ethics, or let's say I know there's this one student that studied public health and administration, and she brought on all of her experiences and she taught us so much about what will happen in nursing homes and so forth. And I learned a great deal from that because I took everything I learned from her and I put it into my field. And you know, I was able to succeed and become a director at my job. And you know, it's all because I was able to connect with her.
Absolutely. And Erin, what did you like most about your program?
Well, very similar to what was just said. It was really getting to mix with other people in the Common Core classes. You know, I come from an engineering background, and here I was going to a master's degree in ethical leadership. Like, people in engineering don't regularly talk about ethics. So it was a whole new language I needed to learn, and being surrounded at the time, the other programs were interfaith leadership and public sector leadership. So I was surrounded by these other students who really, you know, sort of ethical constructs and pulling from wisdom traditions was really at the core of who they were. And so being able to be in deep dialogue with other people about things that mattered was what I really enjoyed most about being part of the way that this program was configured.
Excellent. I love those core courses and having students across different fields and students with different generational backgrounds, different experiences, different countries even. I just love the dialogue that is exchanged in those core courses that we have. So excellent. So are there any particular habits that helped you to succeed? Paquita?
This is a great question. And it was actually something that I struggled with initially, trying to balance, right? So I'm trying to balance being a mom, working full time, being in leadership in my role. So I really had to kind of pull myself back because I could feel myself, you know, the 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, just trying to like get all of this work done and make sure that I had things turned in on time and I had quality work. So what I ended up doing is I created a schedule. When one of my girlfriends, she sat me down and she was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm just like, I've got to be great. I've got to be perfect. I got to get all the A's. And she said, "Set yourself a schedule, make time, be intentional about it." So that's what I ended up doing. I became intentional, took a look, was trying to be more forward thinking, taking a look at, you know, when things were due, when I had to, you know, make comments, turn in papers and things like that. And I set specific days. I can't remember off the top of my head what days they were, but there were specific days during the week. Those were like my study days. Those are my study days to get my work done. But I also set a limit for myself where I couldn't, it still sounds late, but you can't do anything after midnight. So I had to do it and be intentional about it. And it worked really well for me because I was able to really adjust and do better as far as time management was concerned. I never felt rushed when I was turning in a paper. I never felt rushed when, you know, I had assignments that needed to be turned in or things, group projects that I needed to work on. But I found that worked well. I was rested. I felt confident in the work that I was turning in. I was able to balance family and work. So those were some of the habits that I used to succeed.
Excellent. And Inva?
Yes, I think that I found myself in a lot of the things that Paquita just said. I would like to add that apart from that, right, one of the first classes that we had was a mindfulness class. So that really helped a lot to really pace yourself, right, along the journey that I was just taking, because I was out of school for 10 years. So going back to it, it was really hard. And I really did not want to give up because it was a passion of mine to really pursue this degree. So what I did is after that class, I did an assignment tracker, which really helped me. I did contact the professors. I asked for help, especially when I didn't understand things, because again, I was out of the school way. And when I graduated, I didn't do school online, I did it in person. So it was a different way. And just learning all that process was new to me. And I was, as a mom, as business owner, just like finding that time. So I did carve out time every day. Like in the morning, I would read the emails and make sure that, okay, this is what I need to submit. And then I would put in the assignment tracker and just really read the syllabus, right? Many times over. So you really understand it and then ask the questions. The other thing is that I befriended some of my cohorts. So we would work together and we would have like study sessions together. And I'm still friends with them. And actually they are doing a doctorate in somewhere else in different schools. So we do keep in touch. So having those people through the same program, going through the same pains, right, really helped. And then after every class that we would, because at that time it was 10 weeks. So we would actually have a Friday fun day. We would just Zoom together and just chat about it, right? Like how we really achieved it and what we went through. So it's a great support to have your cohorts. If, of course, I know it's online, but it does help. Even as just set up study sessions, just sit on Zoom and just write or do the homework or do the responses, and have an open communications with your professors, because it's not hard. It truly is not hard if you understand it, and they're there to help.
Thank you. And Erin, any habits?
So I would echo what others have said. In fact, one of my classes had a cohort where we called ourselves the pajama forum, because all of us were like typing at each other in the forums at about 11 o'clock at night. But the one thing that I would say that I thought was a particular good habit was every course, when we got to the course and you look at the syllabus and you see what the big projects are for that course, because there's always like one or two papers or one or two things that you have to deliver. I always stopped for a moment. I figured out, how is this relevant to what I'm doing at work? And how do I make it something where if I could like convince my boss, then maybe I could spend some work time doing it, because if the output was going to be beneficial to what we were trying to do with regards to either my leadership trajectory or actually my delivery at work, then like I could get a little bit of spare time and sort of balance it with actual, kind of paid work time. So whenever that was possible, that really did help with some of the load.
That's such a wonderful, wonderful idea. I never heard anyone say that they've done that before, other than for the capstone project. So that's really neat that you looked at the assignments and saw how you could integrate that into work. Great thinking, Erin, great thinking. So Janelle and Jeremy, what were the biggest advantages to you for going into school in an online program?
Take it away, Janelle.
For me personally, one of the major benefits of online schooling would be flexibility. Just being able to, like everybody's saying, you must have time management, which I struggled with. But I worked at a psych hospital, and my assignments on a Tuesday and a Wednesday would be less than everybody else's. And those were two of my major days that I would have to do whatever I wanted to, whether it's research or just free time, so to speak. So I spent a lot of my time reading ahead and also kind of formatting my assignments on my discussion board. And sometimes if I don't understand, I would reach out to the professors and some of my students, my colleagues at that time, and some of the my coworkers. So we would have like group discussions, and that would also help me. But the flexibility of everything, knowing that I was able to kind of get that done prior to getting home at night, that helped me a lot. I didn't physically have to leave where I was to get to class. And that helped as well, because, transporting yourself from one location to another, that takes away from your time studying. So that helped me in a sense. I love that part of it, and I would do it again.
Excellent. And Jeremy?
Yes, going back to what Janelle said, it's flexibility, and also, you get to increase your productivity, your personal productivity. So, you can plan ahead. One of the biggest advantages for me was planning ahead, getting ahead of the coursework. So then that way, if something does pop up that is very urgent, I have that leeway, I have that flexibility to postpone it till, next week or whatnot. So, and as you know, you were my capstone mentor. So I would go to you a lot early in regards to certain issues or questions that I would come in contact with. But for the most part, it helped me be a lot more productive. And also, not being able to travel to class also saved me gas as well too. I'm a finance guy, financial analyst, so I look at things from like a money aspect and how we could save and things of that nature. So that also played a part in it as well.
Excellent. It saves you time, saves you money, saves you energy.
Correct.
So there's so much that it's saving. So excellent thoughts. So now my next question, kind of based off of this one, what did you struggle with most and how did you overcome that struggle? Janelle?
Time management was, like I had the Tuesday and Wednesdays, right, which were like assured, but I always, for whatever reason, struggled with my time management skills. Just because I would get ahead of everything, like Jeremy, I would kind of plan ahead. I already knew what the questions were for the upcoming weeks and what the assignments were and so forth. But always found myself rushing at the very end. And I guess because I took that time for granted, I have tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow and so forth. And I wouldn't say that I succeeded too much, but kind of planning a little bit, kind of creating like a schedule for myself, kind of helped. But it's something that I still struggle with, and I'm admitting that right now. And I think it's because I take time for granted. But that kind of helped me a lot of times. I found myself ahead of schedule, and then when it came down to submitting, I was like, oh my gosh, where did the time go? So, so that's kind of one of the things that I struggled with to the very end of everything.
And you're still kind of struggling with it. So that's one of those things that takes a life to learn. Time management, life is always going to get in the way. It's going to.
And that happens to me quite frequently. So I'm going to admit that, planning ahead helps. It does help knowing what you're facing weekly. It helps. I mean, it did for me because I was technically always ahead, but for whatever reason, when it came down to it, I was struggling. And that's just a personal thing that I have to continue working with, working on.
Okay. And Erin?
I'll be quite honest. The mindfulness course was the thing I struggled with most, and it's just sort of the example of coming from this super technical background and this super technical training into this place where like your homework was meditation. Like it blew my mind. I was like, is this an academic setting? And kind of as you got into things, it wasn't just that. It was like every course I had to shift the way I was thinking. I mean, that's what education is supposed to do. It's supposed to sort of broaden your aspects, but it's whole new vocabulary, whole new language, whole new philosophical concepts that were completely foreign to me coming from an engineering training. And that's why it was so great to have sort of the dialogue. So I always would read, and I read everything in advance. I would try to get like the use of the weekend before or even earlier than that, because I really wanted to like have time to sit with stuff, to like let my subconscious kind of deal with it and look at the real world and not my professional world, to really grasp the concept so that I could be a good dialogue partner by the time we were actually talking about it in the forums.
Excellent. And Jeremy?
For me, it was the face-to-face interaction. I'm a bit old school, as my son tells me. So I cherish the face-to-face interaction. There's something about it that, brings out some sort of authenticity when you're having dialogue with people. It's one thing to type and go in that realm where you're typing out your thoughts, but it's another thing when you say it, because you get to understand the intent of what the person is getting at. Not that I didn't understand the intent of the dialogue that was being articulated through keyboard, but at the same time, it just gives it that somewhat authentic feel that, you know, you're getting to something. And learning through one of my courses, dialogue, I struggle with the issue of wanting to win an argument, you know, and that was until what, probably 21, when, you know, my mom would tell me something and I'd be like, you know what, I can't argue with my mom. I'm just going to let her be right, you know, and that kind of grew into something, and that manifested to something where it's like, all right, let me understand where my mom is coming from. Let me understand where this person is coming from. Let me dive into their psyche and understand their world. And who knows, maybe I might learn something, you know, something I may add to my repertoire as a human being. So yeah, just those face-to-face interactions, I think that's what really I had a struggle with.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, online learning is not for everybody, right? And we certainly all knew that. But when you embrace it, it can certainly take you places. So without it, none of us would be where we are right now. So
Correct.
excellent. How much time did you spend studying each week? And Erin, I'm going to start with you this time.
It was a long time ago, but my recollection, it was something like 15 to 20 hours a week.
And were you full-time or part-time?
I was full-time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Paquita?
I was going to say just about the same, especially weeks when I knew I had a paper or a project that was due. Those were definitely 15, 20 hours a week. What I tried to do, you know, as I said, with my schedule, is I had quote unquote my days off. And on the other days that I didn't have the days off, I would probably do between 2 and 3 hours, just to make sure that I had myself aligned with what I needed to turn in. Yeah.
Perfect. And Jeremy?
For me, honestly, it was about 3 to 5 hours a week. When I had papers, probably a little bit more, about 10. But how I did it was basically incorporating my studies into my lifestyle. So that definitely kind of cut down time that I would normally spend just kind of hacking away at, you know, the studies and things of that nature. So I pretty much brought my conversations into life. Like I would have conversations with my wife about my studies, or I would have conversation about my friend regarding my studies, and he would give me some pointers and I would give him some pointers, and we would all come to like some sort of agreement as to, you know, what the emphasis of my studies was and what to write about. So that definitely helped me out a lot.
And I'm sure it helped you to make lots more personal connections as you're reflecting and sharing with others. So
yeah,
excellent. And Inba, how much time did you spend each week?
Oh, I'm trying to remember, but it was, yeah, I would say the same. I would do every day a check-in, like an hour or 2 hours. And if there was a paper that it was due, I would write like as a draft, and then I would send it to the writing center, and then whatever feedback I would get, because again, whatever tools that could really help me succeed, I used it because I was out of school for so long. I really didn't know some of the things, how they worked. Not because I didn't know how to use the computer or any of that, but just like I'm a procrastinator, so I really wanted to be good. I wanted to be good in submitting everything on time and having everything good. And there was a couple of times that I did barely submit at 11:59 those discussion boards, but that did not feel good, right? It didn't feel right. So the next week, then I'll really take a chance and say, okay, so what is it that I need to read ahead or I need to do for me to be able to express exactly, you know, what I learned and whatever how I can respond to my cohort. But checking in every day was very important for me because I was on top of it. And then the days that actually assignments were due or papers, it was about 4 to 6 hours. So those days, a little bit more.
Excellent. Thank you for bringing up the Writing Center. It's so important for everybody to know about all the wonderful resources that we have here at CLU. And our writing coach is definitely one of those wonderful resources. If you're using time management and you can get your work done early, then you can take the time to submit it for a nice review to make sure that the flow is right and your APA is on format. So excellent. And I noticed that I skipped over a question. So what would you do differently if you had to do it all over again? Paquita?
This is one of my favorites because I think about it all the time after the fact. But I think if I could do it all over again, I would embrace the journey. And I say that more so because I spent so much time, as mentioned, I had been out of school almost 20 years before, and this was just a really personal goal for me. I wanted to be able to say, yes, I did this. I did it under my own terms and all of those good things. And I think in that, especially in the beginning, I had so much angst and stress because it was just like, I can't be this great. The shoe's going to drop. Okay, next class, they're going to be like, why are you here? Why are you in this program? What are you doing? And I found myself going that course to course, no matter how well I was doing, then it became kind of like a race against myself. And in the end, one, I learned a whole lot about myself and what I bring to the table. But I really think I could have had a better experience if I had kind of embraced the journey in more and had a little more faith in myself and not necessarily the imposter syndrome, which we'll probably talk about a little bit more, but I know that was definitely a space that I was in.
And Enva, what would you do over differently?
Yes, this is such a great question to reflect, especially after you're done, right? Because then you can really examine your past, but then you can just bring that in the future, what you learn. I would say that have a can-do attitude, because every time that I would look at syllabus, I would look, I was like, oh my God, how am I really going to do this? So that imposter syndrome would absolutely kick in. You can't do this. Who do you think you are? This is going to take a long time. Other people are in the work that they're doing and they're doing this for a reason. What are you doing this for? I was almost 40 and I was changing careers as well. Like it was just everything loaded, and top of it, COVID. So it was quite a loaded year for me to do that. But having that can-do attitude, and along as the courses went, I learned something and I really applied that. So learning and applying really, really helps. So if I was to do something different, just apply more and just really have that can-do attitude and just push away that imposter syndromes, because we can do it. If we sign up for this, we can absolutely do it. It's possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what 3 words describe your CLU experience? Janelle, 3 words.
Interesting, educational, and awareness.
Great choices. And Erin, did you want to share your 3 words?
I would say inspiring, challenging, and transformative.
Okay, great choices in words. I think we can all agree that those words are certainly things that you think of when you're thinking about a graduate school program. So thank you for sharing. What do you know now that you wish you comprehended during your time here at CLU? Paquita?
Kind of goes back to the last one. Like I could do it, and I think also realizing how much I would grow. I grew a lot, before CLU, I was in leadership and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm a pretty good manager. I would hear that all the time. But then I learned the why, the things behind why the things I was doing worked so well. And it came along throughout the program, but I wish that I had kind of comprehended that then, because I probably would have pulled that out more. Mm-hmm. But in hindsight, I definitely say that that's one of the biggest things, because, looking backwards, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, you could do this. You did great. You accomplished it. You met great people. You learned more about yourself. You learned more about being a leader, the why, and that there's also the idea, because the idea of going back to grad school, it was just so daunting to me, because I remember my undergraduate experience and I was just like, there is just no way you're going to be able to do this all. And now in hindsight, I'm just thinking that I'm really glad that I did it. And I'm definitely glad that I did it at CLU, because it was just so much in line with who I am as a person. You know, the golden rule is my thing. But also the people and, you know, the instructors, the professors, but also the staff there. It was just amazing.
Excellent. And Inva.
Oh, there's so much that I could echo that what Paquita's just said. And I was doing, because I was in a business role prior to attending the specific degree that I wanted to achieve. And I was doing it. But again, like she mentioned, like, I didn't know why, right? So then COVID hit, and just so many things that I was learning, I was able to apply. But I was having this kind of like setback, thinking that, wait, this is just a book, right? Because it's different from the real life and it's different from what the book is saying. So in the beginning, I was not as eager to really apply all of that, but so I started applying it slowly. And the moment that I was getting a really good feedback, I was able to apply.
Excellent. And Jeremy.
My only thing is, if I were to do it all over again, I wish I would have done it at a younger age. I think the older I have gotten, the more I've been kind of set in my ways a little bit. So a lot of the things that I was learning, I was pretty much kind of in awe of. Whether that be, you know, just a culture shock of different things, or just learning about different ways that people conduct business, or the moral aspect of ethics. I think that really was eye-opening to me, and it helped me indulge in a lot more discussions about, you know, how do I get from here to here? How did you do it? Let me hear your personal experiences. So I think, you know, me being young, or not me being young now, but if I was young back then, I think my mind would be a lot more equipped to handle all the information that that was provided to me at this time. So
That's really interesting for me to hear, because I was an adult learner as well. And I thought that I had more time, more energy, more passion, more interest the older that I got. I thought it was easier for me as an adult learner with children who were in college as well. Going to college really helped me, because I could relate. And I was thinking about, look at all the things that my daughter's doing. She's working, she's in college, she's out having fun at night. How can you do that and still be in college and still get high grades? Where I wasn't doing anything at night. So it was just easier for me because I was an older person going back to school. So we're all different, right? We're all unique and adapt to things differently. So excellent. So what are you most proud of from your CLU experience? Paquita?
Oh my goodness. It's a lot. And it's just kind of struck me, because I've had a lot of opportunity through CLU. You know, the opportunity to talk about the program. I just didn't realize till now how passionate I am about CLU and the program. The opportunity to represent CLU, talk about it, but also for me, it was like learning balance in my children, right? So my children are now like, I'm gonna go get my master's degree like mommy. I was a first generation college student. So to hear my children say that is really one of the things I'm the most proud of, but also being able to utilize the skills that I did acquire and the why, and help others, right? So we're always talking about change, talking about fostering change, and just knowing how much I was able to do in my little corner of the world. And I'm still able to do that in relation not only to my capstone, which I know we're going to talk about that some as well, but I was absolutely passionate about. So I've just been really proud of myself, the entire experience, and the fact that it was a good match between me and CLU to just be able to accomplish the goal that I've had from a lifelong perspective.
Excellent. And Erin, what are you most proud of?
So, so part of the reason why I came to CLU was because I was sitting on the trustee board of our employee-owned company. It's a global engineering company, and I felt uncomfortable with the kinds of things that we were talking about in terms of the business lines that we were in the context of climate change. And so I came specifically to bolster my capabilities in ethics. And one of the things that I'm most proud of is that one of those ethics papers that I wrote, I chose this question of, like, should we be doing any work in the fossil fuel industry? And coming out of the thinking that I did there, I went to the trustee board, I advocated that we needed to start divesting our actual profit-making business. I got a lot of pushback at the time. Eventually I went off the board, but just last November, we committed to no longer being involved with supporting fossil fuel extraction, transportation, or anything related to that industry. So I'm very proud. It, multiple years, 8 years later, because it takes a really long time to decide to give up that much profit. But I feel like, some of the decisions that are being made now link back to sort of that advocacy that I felt strong enough about, because I had the intellectual and philosophical framework that came from the studies I was doing in that ethics class, way back in 2014.
Excellent.
So that's the thing I'm most proud of.
Excellent. Change takes time, and sometimes it does take 8 years for a change that you started to implement for it to happen. So I'm glad you were able to see and learn that they did take your feedback into consideration. That's wonderful. And Janelle, what are you most proud of?
So far everything for me, learning everything that I learned from CLU, learning or co-learning with my colleagues. I took something that I really didn't understand in the beginning, how I was going to take this degree, take all the knowledge that I was walking out with, and how was I going to apply to the field that I was working in, because I am a therapeutic recreation therapist, and it's a limited field. So it's like, okay, I'm at a point where there's not much growth left, and I didn't know how to apply everything that I was learning. And somehow I was able to speak to the right people and move up the chain. So it's funny because I've changed 2 jobs in CLU. I became a director of recreation at one nursing home, and now I'm a program director at a major rehab hospital. So I was able to take everything and put these things into conversations. And, slowly I'm climbing the ladder, and I'm kind of seeing how I'm able to apply everything that I've learned in, the conversations that I'm having. And in some sense, I'm helping create some change with the team that I get to employ, and how we're doing training, and how we determine what sports and activities that we get to use out in the community. So I'm very proud.
Nice. What is something at Claremont Lincoln University that you appreciated? Erin?
And so I always appreciated, because I was part of that sort of startup cohort, how scrappy everybody was. It seemed like the whole thing was being run by about 5 people. But the dedication to this vision of a sort of a socially useful degree that would have impact, real positive change, impact in the world, I just admired, and I wanted to be part of it. And I've always appreciated that, despite whatever changes have occurred in the intervening years, that Claremont Lincoln has always stayed true to that vision.
Excellent. Inva?
Oh, I'm excited to answer this. We had an event. That's where I met you, actually. There was this event that CLU had, and it was such a beautiful event. It was an all-day event. In the end, we painted this mural. So that organization where you get to meet people, because it's an online event, right? Like, when will you get to meet these people and see? So that was wonderful. A wonderful, wonderful event for me. The other thing is that CLU really made me put whatever I had written in the paper, put into action. And because of that, this is what I wrote for my capstone and also did for, I'm actually doing right now, my doctoral degree, is that I am taking action for leadership change. That's where Wowman, which is my company, took place. And every idea that I'm implementing now and I continue to study came from CLU. So it was just wonderful for CLU to really push me to take action, not just write things.
Excellent. I'm glad you're taking action and you're continuing to do that in your PhD program. So that's great. And Jeremy, what's one thing that you appreciated from CLU? Oops, you're on mute.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Just the conversations, the input, the collaborations, just people just bringing their experience into the classroom and being able to share that. That was definitely one thing that I appreciated, because it motivated me to share my experiences and, have other people pick apart my brain as well. So it was definitely interesting. I enjoyed every bit of it. And, not being afraid to step out and venture out into new worlds, into new things. I'm a creature of habit. So, I like to, I like doing the same things over and over because it's comfortable, and plus I enjoy it. But I found more initiative, more reason to kind of venture out and do new things, experience new waves of different things that people are into. Prime example, with my son, me and my son, we like totally two different things, two totally different people. So, it could be anything like, playing a video game or something like that. Like, how do you do that, son? Or, he asking me, how do I do that? And just engaging in dialogue and, showing him the ropes, even when I'm, fixing my car and things of that nature. He's asking me questions and being able to break it down to him. And then, him giving me advice as to what I should do to make it easy. Just, you never know what you can learn from people. So those are things that I'm very, very grateful and appreciative of.
Excellent. And now my next question is, list an obstacle that you were faced with and share what motivated you to move forward. Inva.
I want to share the obstacle that I had with my capstone. So I was doing qualitative research on my capstone, and because it was COVID, I couldn't get people to really agree to do interviews online on Zoom. It was still the beginning. People were just navigating Zoom. They didn't know what it was. It was a time limit on many of those. So just trying to get a superintendent, because I had a higher education, trying to get a superintendent to interview with me for 45 minutes, an hour, and kind of like be on that process. And I sent out, I think, about 25 emails, and I got 3 back. And even I had to work with those. I had to work with what I had. So it was a big obstacle for me, but keeping in contact with my professor, and then my capstone people, the center and everybody, it really helped me be on track. But it was a big obstacle for me, because I was to the point that I was going to change what I was writing about, because I couldn't find enough resources. So that was something that CLU really helped me bring to light.
Excellent. And Paquita.
So I spoke a little bit on my number one, which was the can I do it, the imposter syndrome piece. But another obstacle that I faced was the group projects. So, every week, that's the running joke, when you're at work, in classwork, where you're having to partner with other people, and, you want your A, you want your good grade. Is everybody pulling their weight? And I will definitely say that was one time, and I could see that there are members of the group where we kind of had to all right, mindfulness, let's get that dialogue going. Let's get that collaboration, putting it all to use. How can we actually make this happen for any outliers or scenarios where, you know, someone may be busy or, you know, they don't have their camera on. This is pre-COVID, right? No camera, no, having that same passion, because when you're in a group with people, you know, there may be some like-mindedness, right? I want an A. Then there may be some like, listen, I just got to get this assignment in. I've got 20 other things going on at work. But that was definitely an obstacle that I faced, because I started to have to like look at myself, and I was like, I had to tell myself, like, calm down. It's really not that serious in the long run, but let's talk about it, right? We're going back to the person who's like, I gotta make an A, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. And now I'm dependent upon on these other people. And it was just the perfect opportunity to utilize the skills that we've been, you know, learning throughout this whole process. So you know, for me, that was, excuse me, that was the obstacle I faced. And I was just motivated to move forward because I had a different way of thinking, right? After being in this program. So there you go. Yeah.
I'm so glad you brought up group projects. That's something that nobody likes, right? Everybody frowns upon group projects, but we know we do it at work. We do it at work all the time. We're always working on group projects. And knowing that Claremont core, having that into play, those classes that we took or that we taught, that I was able to teach. And let me tell you, every time I taught one of those core courses, I learned from my students. I learned a little bit more. I just recently taught our new strategic communications class. Wonderful, wonderful class. I think everybody at CLU should have to teach it or take it. Because we learn so much about ourselves and about our students and about the work that we're already doing every day. You learn why you're doing it. And it's just really great to allow you to be able to then put that into place, put that into work to make those team projects actually work.
And if you don't mind, I'm glad you said that, because it carries on at work. So I'm even now when I'm thinking about everybody's like, how do you do that? And in my mind, I'm like, I don't know. But then I'm realizing like, oh, right. You learned all this, right? Mm-hmm. You added to your toolkit. So I kind of become the ringleader, like, all right, y'all, let's get it together. Let's communicate. Let's bring it down. Let's make everybody happy and do those things. But it's really, really good point on that one as well. Yeah.
Excellent. So Jeremy, how have you applied the skills that you learned to your coursework? I mean, from your coursework to your job?
Well, I mean, since I'm more in the analytical field, it's being able to tell a story. Oftentimes, you know, when we make a lot of key business decisions, especially at leadership level, sometimes we only look at numbers, and numbers really don't tell what's going on. And that's kind of the disconnect between, you know, the human aspect, the people that, you know, are that make the business go, and, you know, leadership that only looks at numbers, you know. So being able to bring that connection back between numbers and being able to tell a story, and, you know, having the emotions, the morals, the ethics behind it, it definitely helped me look at the bigger picture a lot more.
Excellent. And Erin?
Well, because I kept trying to do work stuff as part of my course outcomes. So for one class, I created a leadership training course and then taught it at work. For my capstone, I created sort of an induction course for all of our new graduates who come into the firm to help them sort of understand the culture of the firm, the way we do work collaboratively, and just teach some of these habits that we expected people to learn by osmosis, but that really you could teach them about how to work together in a non-academic environment in order to be really successful professionally. And so, you know, some of these things had direct benefit to my firm, but were also direct outcomes and deliverables from the course.
Excellent. And Janelle?
For me personally, I had more conversations about, you know, healthcare equity and, you know, just leading those conversations, because a lot of people that we're around don't really quite understand how healthcare is, or, you know, what it's about in the US. And then just being able to lead these conversations and be a part of them as well and actually have qualitative responses. That's one of the major ones for me. In mindfulness, like everybody keeps mentioning, I've learned how to mindful driving, and that helps me every single day. Like that was one of the things that we had to kind of create in one of the projects, and I never let that go because I found myself being so chaotic when I'm driving, especially if I'm running a little bit behind. And then now I just sit back and I remind myself, remember what you learned and remember what you were practicing. So mindful driving sticks, it is absolutely one that I am never letting go of. And, my communicative skills also improved. I would maybe automatically just assume that the people around me know what I'm thinking or they know what direction I'm going. And sometimes you get so annoyed because how couldn't you not figure that out? But then I realized, no, you have to communicate your needs. You have to, that's how a leader is. You have to communicate. So for me personally, also that improved as well. I'm just letting everybody be on the same page with everything. It doesn't matter how big or how small the details are. I'm communicating absolutely everything, and that's something that I adopted since CLU, and also understanding dialogue, because a lot of times we use that word very loosely, and we didn't quite understand what that meant, and that's something that I also kind of have in everything that I do now. Is like we sit at a round table and we discuss everything, and just really introduce the true definition and practice of dialogue. So all of that all together, it's with me every single day.
Excellent. So it's a full circle. Excellent. So now we're going to talk a little bit about our capstone experience. Inva, can you tell us a little bit about your capstone experience? I know you had some challenges getting people to survey, but anything else, anything wonderful or a challenge, anything you want to share?
Yes, my capstone was actually in accelerating leadership diversity in higher education, because I saw that there's more women graduating, but there's not more women really serving in these boardrooms. And because of that, my capstone really pushed me to create WowMan, which is what it does. It legislates, it rewrites the laws, it upholds the laws in Washington for having more diversity in the boardroom in higher education, because that's what I study. This is what I do. And it's all thanks to CLU and all thanks to the capstone. However, because how my capstone started, on my first draft, I got a C and I got really upset. And I said, wait a second, this is really not my best work. Like, why am I really, but I was struggling. I was really struggling to really write, because I had to put my emotion aside and just really focus on the facts, not just what my emotions were. So my capstone in the end, it was great, to the point that I'm still using the same idea as I mentioned to right now to my dissertation. So my capstone sparked something and it's going. And thanks to CLU, I know exactly, I found my mission and my passion, and I'm continuing to do the same.
Excellent. And Paquita?
There's so much that I think about when I go back to my capstone, because it was one of those things that I had kind of built myself. I have a habit. It sounds like I have a habit, right? Building myself up, like, oh my gosh, here we go. It's that final push. Am I going to make it? Is this going to be this daunting, like horrific experience? And this is when the shoe's going to drop, right? But it was not that at all. Really and truly, what I told people, I definitely had the opportunity, this is before COVID, to attend like the gathering, right? So we were able to have conversations and really connect. And I was able to tell people, you really pay attention. Like, as you're going through class, a lot of the things that we were doing in class, a lot of the prompts were prep and items that we could actually utilize within our capstone. For me, I struggled with, how was I going to do it? I just thought it was going to be this huge daunting task. And then as we broke it down and as we started to break, and then we finally get to that class, and then Dr. Staples, God love her, she was so phenomenal in helping me to stay focused and really narrow down on what I was going to write on. And for me, it was easy because it was something I was passionate about. And I think Erin mentioned that earlier as well. My capstone was on Black women in the workplace, right? Talking about authenticity and or the lack thereof and the opportunity to do so. And also to kind of how to foster that and open that. And so I was really fortunate to have quite a collective group of women that were interested in participated. And at that time, like I said, it was pre-COVID. So, people were open, like, let me take a survey, let me do this and have these conversations. But I think I'd really worked myself up to a point. And by the time I got to it, I was just like, the faculty, I want to say made it easy, but really what also made it easy, it was something that I was passionate about. And we learned that at the very beginning. And so if I just kind of like really took those nuggets all the way to the end, I would have been able to see like, oh my gosh, Bakita, this is going to be fantastic because you're talking about something that you're passionate about, and it's easier, just like with anything else, to have that ease with that. So yeah.
Excellent. And Janelle.
Well, Nancy, you were my mentor, so you know. So initially, starting, you're told about your capstone project from inception, right? Before you even decide that you're attending. And I was told about it. I'm like, okay, I already know what I want to talk about, because as a therapeutic recreation specialist, I wanted to really know why my colleagues were not getting certified. And so my focus for that entire time, at CLU was, this is what I'm writing about. So I don't even care. I had already had a draft prepared and so forth. I never went to the lab, which was one of the mistakes that I made. So one thing that I would advise everybody is coming in, go to the lab, get yourself familiar with everything and really focus on what you're really going to do at the end. And I think I changed my topic at least 3 times prior to settling to what I did at the end. And it's because also, like INVA, getting people to survey, to answer the questions genuinely without a bias, that was a struggle, because I kind of had an idea what I wanted to do, but then it was so focused on my personal bias that it wouldn't have made sense to really delve deeper into that topic as my capstone project, because my eye was just focused on this. I knew what the answer was already. I just wanted more people to answer the question. So because of that, it kind of led me back a few. But in the end, I don't regret it, because then COVID happened, of course. And then I realized that a lot of our leaders are not prepared for disasters, which is ultimately what I wrote about in the end. And it could be something as simple as a snowstorm. How are you going to get the parking lot clean? And this is your job for 20 years. How do you not know what's going to happen after a snowstorm and how to get it? Like simple issues like that. Really, it affects the people at the bottom, and leaders at the top don't see that. And that's something that I wanted to explore in the end. In the end, it was great. But, like a lot of us, we take the lab for granted and we're just rushing through everything. And one thing I also did was take it for granted a lot, because I figured, okay, I'm going to do the first draft and it's not going to be important. But then it became where it was not the greatest thing that I put out. It was the weakest work that I had put through in CLU, and I was so embarrassed by it. But it never got better until the very end, which is what in my mind I thought, okay, well, it's just a draft, so whatever. But no, it really took up a lot of the grade. So my last paper, my actual capstone, that's really when I put all my focus in to what I was delivering. But for the time getting up there, I really wasn't focused and I wasn't ready. And that's something that I would advise anybody coming in: be prepared from the beginning. From your first course, be prepared and be ready.
Great advice. Well, I know we still have 2 more questions, but it is the top of the hour. So I want to thank everybody for their time. I know we have some attendees here. I don't know if there's any questions at all. I see somebody asking if this recording is going to be posted online. Yes, it's going to be posted exactly where you registered for it. The link for the registration will turn into the recording in about an hour from now. It's going to take about that long for this to archive, and then I will post that there. I want to thank all of our panelists. Thank you so much for choosing CLU, for still serving CLU, for being here and cheerleading our programs. We couldn't do it without each and every one of you. So thank you. And thank you to our attendees for taking the time to join us and learn a little bit more about the experiences of these successful colleagues of yours. So thank you, everybody. Have a great, great night.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Bye-bye.